where the D in Big D stands for Dak delayed. And maybe worse than that, it's a concern we've got the latest. Then, they need help in Indy with 2 huge injuries. Might the answer come in the last place they were expecting to look? You need to hear this. And then, the Lakers. They add another aging superstar. They look good. But the question is, are they just too old to win the championship? We've got that answer and plenty more as we get up with you starting right now on a Wednesday, and delighted that you have chosen to get up with us and delighted not to be alone in here. Take a look at this. Mike Tannenbaum, Kimberly Martin are ready to go. The big swagoo, Marcus Spears, is also up and ready to go with us this morning. Tons of football to get to, but we begin with the rest of your busy night in sports. And a game 4 years in the making. The Astros at Dodger Stadium for the first time with fans in attendance since the scandal. And the fans were ready in every way. Listen to the fans' reaction when Jose Altuve was introduced to the plate. That's part of the legacy, but Altuve, unfazed, smashes a base hit to center field. Fans didn't get to him, but they weren't done yet. Next up, it was Carlos Correa's turn to come to the plate and hear the boos. So they were ready last night in L.A. Walker Buehler getting Correa's swing in there, and the fans love that. Let's show you how the game was decided. Top of 8, the Astros have a runner on, and they have Yordan Alvarez at the plate. Alvarez. It might be, it could be, it is. It's a 2-run shot, his 20th of the year, so the Astros get the last laugh. They silence the fans. They win it by a score of 3-0 in what could easily have been a preview of this year's World Series. Meanwhile, let's get up and go through the rest of a very busy day in sports. Steph Curry has agreed to a 4-year, $215 million contract extension with the Warriors. It makes the 33-year-old Curry the first player in history to sign 2 $200 million contracts. Meanwhile, Carmelo Anthony teaming up with his buddy LeBron James in L.A., signing a 1-year contract with the Lakers. The 18-year vet averaged 13 a game off the bench for Portland last season. We'll get more deeply into that a little later. To the Olympics, major showdown in Tokyo between American spinners Sydney McLaughlin and Dalilah Muhammad. The 400-meter hurdles, the two broke away from the field, and it was McLaughlin in the end, coming from behind to win the gold in world record time. So that was then. This is coming up tomorrow. We're 1 day away from the Cowboys and Steelers opening the 2021 preseason with the Hall of Fame game. In one of the big stories ahead of the matchup, the injury to Dak Prescott's throwing shoulder. Originally, Mike McCarthy said Prescott wouldn't throw for a few days. Now, sounds like it might be longer than that.
After the research and looking at it, we just don't want this to turn into something big. So it's he's doing everything that he possibly can, but we're just being a little more conservative with his rehab. If it was in season, I think it'd be a different outlook, different focus. But this, because of where we are, having the extra week, we just want to make sure this doesn't turn into something bigger.
So that's a lot of words. Mike Tannenbaum, those are words you've spoken. Are you worried about this?
Absolutely, because I know what he really means, which is this is your starting quarterback that you're paying $40 million a year, and his shoulder is still not where it was a week ago, and it was just going to be a couple of days. Greeny, what is it going to be like in October and Thanksgiving? And we talked about this yesterday. Coach Parcells, great quarterbacks, they throw with their legs. What could he not do over the last year? Mm-hmm. He couldn't work off of his legs. So clearly his body is, scraping the rust off. And I'm concerned because when you hear about these little setbacks now, what does that really mean? And look, they still have a month until they play Tampa, Greeny, but because it's his throwing shoulder, we're not talking about his left shoulder, for a quarterback, I would be worried.
To be clear, they open 5 weeks from tomorrow night, the regular season against Tampa. And, Marcus, last week when this first came up, I asked Dominique Foxworth, at what point should this be a problem? And he said, well, if he's not throwing by the beginning of next week, then maybe it's really a problem. Well, here we are. This is the middle of this week. Marcus Spears, this is your team. Are you concerned?
No, I'm not. I'm not concerned. 5 weeks until the season starts, and I get it. I understand, there should be a level of concern in my mind, but Dak's history and his past and what I know about the league just gives me zero concern. I'm not even convinced yet that it's really that serious in order for him to even be worried about it. And when I say based on Dak's history, I talk about how well he did coming back from this ankle injury. The management of his arm, because of what Mike T just said, a $40 million guy. And y'all, let's be real. Let me let America in on the real damn mystery about Dak Prescott's shoulder, okay? Because we're in the off season and we want to go crazy about it. First of all, I know about probably over 50% of quarterbacks at some point play with a sore arm or a sore shoulder. And the second part is, they gonna shoot the damn arm up if it's hurting still. They're going to numb it, and he's going to play. So listen, for me to be overly concerned when I walked on the field and saw Tony Romo playing with cracked ribs and a back that was almost shot, and I saw Peyton Manning continue to play after a neck fusion, I'm not worried about a strain on Dak's shoulder 5 weeks out from the NFL season starting where real football matters. I'm just not.
Kimberly and I, as reporters, know that this remains undefeated. I've never heard a defensive player worried about a quarterback's injury. Literally never.
Right.
Not a one.
Exactly.
I got Ninkovich on here telling me he just needs to rub some dirt on it. Kimberly, what's the truth here? I got one vote for worried, one vote for not worried. How concerned should we be in Dallas?
I'm with Mike T. I'm worried. First of all, I'm worried because the Cowboys are my early pick for NFC East champions. But in all seriousness, I'm worried because I've heard coaches, I've heard GMs talk about injuries and not be a little forthcoming with it. You've had injuries in the past where, it's nothing, and then as time goes on, it's like, well, yeah, now he's day-to-day, now he's week to week. We've seen that before. I think with Dak, we haven't seen him on a field in over a year, in almost a year. Mm-hmm. And so to me, I'll feel better when I see Dak on the field. When I know that the foot, the ankle, that's good, the shoulder, throwing arm is all good. But until then, I can be worried.
Yeah, because Marcus, I know that you're saying quarterbacks always play with some sort of a sore shoulder, but it's usually not August 4th, right? Right. Don't they usually have that sometime in October or November? On August 4th, isn't that a little bit of a concern?
Yeah.
It's not a concern because all it tells me is that it's fatigue. Like that's what this tells me. Now, if we dealing with something like a tear or something like that, we're having a different conversation. But it's fatigue. And Dak has been throwing long before training camp started. I want to remind people of that. So this may be all of that work, all of the stuff that he did in order. And remember, guys, he couldn't run around. He's been working with his upper body to stay in shape as well. So y'all go ahead and be worried. I'm fine. Dak will be fine. And unless they come out and it becomes something catastrophic like's going on in Indianapolis, you won't see me sweating at all unless it's from this hot damn studio I'm in at my house.
Quick final word.
Yeah, agreed. I don't have good vibes behind me, but what I would say is, Dak is a competitor, and the fact that he pulled himself out leads me to believe it's a little bit more than fatigue. Mm-hmm. If it was just fatigue, I think he'd still be out there.
And if he's fatigued in August, I'll say it again. I mean, we got a long way to go here. We'll see what winds up happening. The team they're playing tomorrow is the Pittsburgh Steelers, and of course, there are lots of off-season questions.